let's chat. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I couldn't leave y'all, out the month without some tips, a little mental health verbiage. I try to keep my channel nice and, just variety, that's what I like to give. Y'all know that. So before I go ahead and get into the tips that I'm going to share today to help with your mental health, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the producer of this shirt, Black Therapist, which is my friend Nicole, who passed away by suicide a few years ago. If you've been watching my videos for a while, I did a video that was probably like 2019, where I actually lost two people that I knew back to back to suicide. And so I just want to, make space for her and tell her that we miss her and we love her and we appreciate the time that we shared with her on this earth. And if you know anybody that is struggling, just try to be an ear. You can't do it all. I definitely tell people, don't hold on to that guilt that you may feel that you didn't feel like you did enough. But I think suicide is just the most extreme version of what, lack of mental health care kind of looks like. And so you want to make sure that you're doing what you need to do to stay sane, especially in today's world, because there's just a lot fucking going on and it's hard to keep up. Like, it's really hard. And a lot of people are struggling. So please don't suffer in silence. Talk to somebody, explore your resources and your options. So, I say this at the beginning of every video. I ain't gonna hold y'all too long. I really just had, how do I say this? So I had, of course, I like to use my content across platforms. So I did these 3 little tips, on my business Instagram page. And so I wanted to do a video to pair with them to just kind of share and expound on some of, the tips and the thoughts that I had. So, the first tip I'm going to talk to you guys about is the idea of projection and how we internalize that, right? So usually the negative messages that we've received across our lifetime, that we sometimes believe about ourselves, they didn't come from us. They came from other people, So if you don't know, projection is just this idea. It's the act of basically taking your own shit and projecting it in a situation or onto a person. So if somebody is unhappy with their self-esteem, they may go and try to bring down somebody else, and so that they also feel bad. It's kind of the whole misery loves company concept, So I really try to remind myself and my clients that people can only meet you as far as they've met themselves. And what I mean by that is if a person has not done any internal work, they have a lack of self-awareness, they run or they avoid the issues that they need to work on, it's no way in hell that they're going to be able to empathize with you, offer you the compassion that you need, because they can't even do that with themselves. They can't even look themselves in the mirror and say, you know what, I got some shit I need to fix. So to wrap around that idea is like, if that person is mean or nasty or rude or whatever the case may be, it has everything to do with them and nothing to do with you. Because even if you dislike something about somebody, even if, something negative has happened between the two of you, there's a way to go about expressing that with some tact, without necessarily being disrespectful. And so I really try to let people know, misplaced anger, off-putting behavior, it has to do with the unresolved issues that person has within themselves. So the worst thing that you can do is believe it. Is whatever they taking and they putting on you, and you taking that and you carrying that around with you for a lifetime, that's the worst thing you could do, because that's not your shit. So when we are able to separate ourselves in that way, it helps our core stay solid. It helps you know who you are. And that doesn't mean it's not going to be hurtful or that it's not going to cause rifts in your relationship. But what I'm saying is, if we can recognize that this is what's going on, then we can understand, like, I don't deserve this, and I'm not going to I'm not going to accept that. I'm not going to let that make me feel less about myself. So one of the examples that I typically use with my clients is all about language, right? So if you find yourself in a situation where you're talking to somebody, or you're having a negative experience with somebody, or they're being, mean or whatever to you, and this could be anybody, instead of, because what happens is when we take that in, we get brought into their stuff, right? And so we get all worked up. We get all mad and upset and defensive and all of that. And we don't need to give them that much energy, because y'all know, number one, people love attention. And like I said, misery loves company. So if they already having a bad day and they run across you, they gonna try to make you have a bad day. And why should you allow that? So just to give you an example of what your verbiage could look like, right? So somebody come to you and they being real rude or whatever. I'm sorry. Actually, no, we're not even going to start off with an apology. We're going to say, it's unfortunate that you don't know how to communicate without tearing people down, without hurting others. I'm sorry that you never learned the language to express yourself in a healthy way. And I hope that one day you do learn that language, so that way you don't go around hurting other people because you are hurting inside. You get what I'm saying? So instead of, because in them type of situations, the person is like usually you. They putting whatever their issues onto you. And it's really not about you. So let's flip the script. Let's really get to a place where we can understand. I'm going to separate myself from this. And I'm going to, a part of this is also, I know people get tired of being a bigger person, but baby, sometimes you don't have no choice but to be the bigger person, because you have a level of growth, elevation, maturity, emotional intelligence that the person you're dealing with does not have. So why do we stoop to their level? You get what I'm saying? So if we can remove our emotions out of it just for a second and really take a step back and think about, like, okay, I don't think I'm wrong. I feel like I'm not wrong. The evidence supports that I'm not wrong. This ain't about me. So let's put perspective onto what's really going on, which is that you have something going on. You are hurting. Somebody upset you, and you're putting that on me. And we're not going to do that. So I hope that really just kind of illustrated how you can shift the interaction from being about you to about them, and highlight the real problem at hand. Like, this is how we stop ourselves from taking stuff so personally. It could be a coworker, a family member that just always got a nasty attitude, always got something to say. And instead of engaging with them in a way that leaves you feeling not good, from the interaction, let's flip that around. Let's really get to the root of what's going on and be able to reflect that. And usually when you repeatedly reflect back to somebody, like how they're behaving and how it's coming off and how it is about them and that shit, they start to think about it. They may not say it out loud. It may take a few times, but they gonna sit and think about it. And you may even fuck around and get an apology. So yeah, this is how you're able to be the bigger person without backing down. Because sometimes I think when we say, oh, I have to be the bigger person, then that means we are, we're having to somehow be passive about what's occurred. And you don't have to be passive. You just don't have to necessarily match that same exact energy. You feel me? Okay. So you got to remember, people go to therapy to deal with the people in their life that won't go to therapy. And usually when I'm talking to clients about how to interact with the people in their life who just have very unfavorable behavior, I have to get them to a place where they can separate themselves from that behavior, from those words, from the feelings that those words and that behavior brings up. And so it's not always easy to let people's comments roll off your shoulders. But again, this is where your own self-awareness, your own understanding of who you are comes into play. And so you're less likely to be wavered by things that aren't true. It's one thing for somebody to offer you some constructive criticism or to bring to light, maybe something you did that they didn't like. That's okay. But it's all in the approach. And when people are coming to you from a place of genuineness and when they come into you from a place of nastiness. That's the best way I can put it. Okay. Yes. We're not letting people take our power, because that's all that does is they walk around feeling rejuvenated, recharged from the interaction because they done got what they wanted out of it. And now you feel depleted or hurt or sad or, whatever. We're not doing that. We walking away unfazed. Okay, here we go. All right, my next gem. Okay, so in today's world, and I mean, even before, but especially right now, a lot of people are talking about how they just do not feel motivated. I don't feel motivated. And I truly believe that sometimes we depend a little bit too much on motivation. And the reason why we cannot do that is because feeling motivated, it's a feeling, right? So it's fleeting. So sometimes you're going to feel like doing it. Sometimes you're not. And the worse this world gets, it's more likely that you're not going to feel like doing certain stuff. But when it comes to our goals, when it comes to the things that we want to achieve, when it comes to the person that we want to be, we have to use commitment and discipline, because that is what is going to outlast motivation every single time. We can't wait around to get this feeling to do the things that we know need to be done. And usually the reason why we're not getting certain things done is because it's a lack of structure, a lack of routine, a lack of planning, and a lack of organization. Oh, y'all, sorry. I thought somebody done hit the building. It was a noise. I ain't like that. But anyway, my clients be really amazed when they come to me and they're like, I want to start working out more, or I want to eat better, or whatever. And these are things that they've been wanting to do, but it's nowhere in their routines or their structure. So the first thing we get to doing is, all right, let's get a planner. I'm planning queen. We talked about this in my New Year video, because your life will operate so much easier when you have a system in place. So it's one thing for you to kind of just have general to-do lists. I mean, okay, but there's a consistency that needs to happen when it comes to how you plan out your day-to-day. You're not going to wake up one day and be like, I'm just going to eat better. I'm going to go to the gym. Like, you might, but you're not going to maintain it. So how do we maintain things is, number one, having the commitment to that goal and the discipline to execute it. All right. So then that's the thing though, when we become adults, our freedom and our free range kicks in. Think about it. When you grew up going to school, you had your school hours, maybe you did your extracurriculars, your mamas most likely has you on a schedule. 7 a.m. we up, you brushing your teeth. It was very by the book, because that's what they needed in order to make sure that life continued to run as smoothly as possible, And so once you get to a place, you go off to college and you like, okay, I got some freedom. And then you really get some freedom when you get into adulthood. You living on your own. Ain't nobody checking behind you. Ain't nobody asking if you ate. Ain't nobody wondering, why you eating ice cream for dinner and you gaining weight. All of that type of stuff. So anything that you want to do, or you're wondering like, man, I just really want to do this stuff, but I don't feel motivated. Like, you have to sit down and figure out, how do I make this a day-to-day planning system? And honestly, like, most of the time we're not gonna feel like it. I don't feel like working most of the time. I mean, I love what I do, y'all know that, but sometimes I don't want to sit on the phone with people all day. Sometimes I don't want to film these videos, okay? Like, but I've made a commitment to doing this as a part of my life. And so, motivation or not, it still has to get done, So, the best thing I can say too is, one of my therapist colleagues, he one time said that, and I think, my video with Saeed. So when that video, Saeed said motivation, and at least that was the conversation we had in the video or outside of the video. Anyway, he said that motivation is like putting gas in your car. And basically, let's say you're going on a road trip or you're driving and you run out of gas. And so what do you do when you run out of gas? You stop, you regroup, you go get you some gas, right? And so the same thing happens in life when we're working towards something and we've lost motivation behind it, right? So it's not that I need to abandon the mission. I may need to take a step back and reevaluate what it is that I'm doing, remembering why I'm doing it. Why is it important to me to follow through on this? And then sometimes you may even come to realize that, like, the initial motivation you had behind doing this isn't what you thought it was going to be. You know, it may be rooted in something else. Maybe you felt motivated when you started out of a place of trying to prove somebody wrong or whatever. And then you get to a point where you over it. And now you don't feel a need to prove them wrong anymore. You know, so really taking a step back to think about, like, why is this important to me? And what am I working towards? So our commitment, our discipline towards what we want is what helps to replenish our motivation. You know, so we may slow down. You know, we may not be as consistent as we need to, but don't stop. We can't stop. And if, like I said, we lose sight of why we started, we have to reevaluate, like, what it is that we're working towards, what we really want. And then sometimes we even have to find new reasons to keep going. Okay? But, you know, don't feel like you are behind in life because you struggle with motivation. Everybody struggles with motivation. And that's why we can't depend on it. Because if we leaned on feeling motivated to do things and get things done, we'd never accomplish anything. And usually when we depend too much on motivation and we run out of it, we start to feel lost. We start to feel purposeless, confused, not knowing, you know, what it is we doing. So we can't depend on that. We have to really have an understanding for ourselves, like, why we're working towards something, and make sure that we just stay committed to it, and we discipline, and we incorporate it into our day-to-day baby steps. Like, it's the brick by brick that you lay every day that leads to the building, the big conclusion or outcome that you're seeking. Okay, so that was gem number 2. Look, we almost done. I told y'all. All right. Third gem. Get out of the habit of labeling things as a success or failure. More so the failure piece, because of course we define what success and failure looks like. It looks different for everybody. However, most things that we feel like we failed at are really either just a work in progress, or back to the last gem where I was saying, basically, we've reevaluated and feel like it's no longer purposeful or useful to us to pursue. And that's okay. Like, sometimes we think because we realize, like, that this isn't what we want to do, that we failed. And that's not the case, you know. So let's say you know, everybody around you is like, go to college, go to college, go to college. And you go and you give it a try and you don't finish. But then you step into something else that you enjoy more. You go get a trade. You start a business that ends up being very successful. That's a win. So you didn't fail at college. You just had to reevaluate your journey to fit in what it is that you actually wanted to do. So I think that the idea of failing, it just puts a lot of unnecessary pressure on ourselves. It keeps us from giving ourselves grace when we may need to put something on pause. And I'm not saying that we should get lazy or we should slack off, or we should, you know, every time we start something, we should just give up. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that sometimes things need room to be reevaluated and reapproached. And that's not giving up, and that's not failure. So another thing I would encourage people to do is really take a look at the rules that they have in place for themselves around success and failure, right? If I feel like I have to be perfect in order to not fail, that's not good for our mental health, because nothing is ever perfect. You know, sometimes getting to where we're trying to go or doing the things we're trying to do, it can be messy. It can be inconvenient. It can just have a lot of different things that make it not work out smoothly. And we have to roll with those punches. And then sometimes, take a second to talk about this idea of success, right? The things that sometimes we get to a point where we achieve something and it don't feel the way we thought it was going to feel. It don't feel like a win. So is that really success? If it doesn't feel that way, that doesn't take away from the fact that you accomplished it, but that may not give you that internal feeling that I succeeded at this. You know what I mean? So making sure that we're evaluating, like I said, these rules of what it means to accomplish certain things and acknowledging like what's really going to fulfill you or bring you happiness, because it's not in our accolades. It's not in our accomplishments. Like, those things feel good in the moment. They add to our repertoire, but they don't sustain us over a long period of time, because we are in a society where it's like, once we finish one thing, we don't even bask in it long enough. We are always thinking about, okay, what's next? No, sit in your wins. If you actually do feel like you succeeded in something, sit in that. And if you feel like something didn't turn out the way you wanted, don't just be so quick to label it as failure. Because the thing is, it's just, most things aren't as black and white as we try to make them out to be. As long as you're still able-bodied or you have certain resources, what's stopping you from working towards something? Even if it didn't happen on the timeline. And that's why they tell you, sometimes our goals have to be flexible, right? Like, at this point in my life, it just goes back to my reality gap video. This point in my life, I didn't think I'd still be in this apartment talking to y'all from this couch. I'm ready to move. I thought I would be gone by 30. But life had different plans. And so I'm not abandoning getting my own property. It's coming next year. I'm putting that in the air, and y'all could quote me on it, because y'all know I make shit happen, but that's the type of attitude you have to have. It's like, yes, it's not happening when I thought I wanted it to happen, but I'm not giving up. And so it's not a failure. And of course, when I start that process, the devil gonna be trying to beat my ass, hit me left and right. I already know, especially the way the housing market is set up, child. But I serve an almighty God, and he gonna look out for me. So sorry to take y'all to church real quick, but that's just where that's where I'm going with this. It's like, really understand why you're doing stuff. Is it for other people? Is it for validation? Especially in this social media shit. Like, are you doing something because you want the likes, you want the glory, you know what I mean? Or is it really important to you? Because if it's based on all the other superficial shit, it ain't gonna mean a thing once you finally do it. Tell you that. So as long as you see value in what you're investing your time in, your energy, your resources, like, that's all that matters, despite what that journey looks like. Okay? And that's it, y'all. So really let what I said marinate on your spirit. Okay? So let's just do a quick recap. Look, if I can remember what the fuck I just said. Y'all see how I be. Okay, motivation, discipline, and commitment outlast motivation every time. People can only meet you as far as they've met themselves. And stop being so quick to define things as success or failure, because most things are a work in progress, okay? So I hope y'all have a good month. Do something really good for your mental health and maintain it. Don't let it fall off. We just not in a place where we can let things fall off. And sometimes it may feel like there's not enough we can do for our mental health right now. So go to therapy. If you don't like, look, I ain't even gonna go there. I was about to say, if you don't like a therapist, go find a new one, because there's plenty of them out there. But yeah, I really hope that everybody is staying sane, is staying safe, and have a good one.